Hello, LOTR, SBG team fans, and Middle Earth strategy battle gamers. We're here with an update of an event we just did called the Long Expected Tournament. And I would say indeed it was long. So many of the tournaments were canceled this year, but we had a small local tournament. And we have quite a few smaller local tournaments that we have planned throughout the year, thanks to Jason. He's kind of the brains of the smaller tournament realm. So we just had this tournament on Saturday. Today is um, Tuesday. So this is giving us some time to reflect on the tournament. Jason did not participate, but he is in the chat giving us his perspectives as the guy who organized it and wrote the rules pack. And then Joe and I played in the tournament. We'll give our perspectives of how we thought the tournament went and our lists and stuff we brought. So the three rounds that we played was round one was a battle. Round two was
Destroying supplies.
destroy the supplies. Round three was assassination. So, Jason, what were your thoughts on picking these three scenarios?
So originally, I wanted to go with three brand new scenarios from the new battle guide book that just was released in the middle of the year. And I think a lot of folks were actually really happy to see that release during this whole pandemic going on. It gave folks the ability to play some new scenarios at home, practice, keep their skills up, and just stay in touch with friends. So my idea was to use three of the six new ones, and I had at one point had all three of them. As you heard, we did assassination and capture supplies, which are two new ones. And I was also going to do what was it? I think the opposite of hold ground. I think it's control the battlefield. So instead of controlling a central point, you control four different sections. But I instead decided to go with Lords of Battle for the third one because you have a movement-based scenario in destroy the supplies. You have a kind of secret strategy-based scenario with assassination, since that's a scenario where you have to kind of play with your opponent and be like, am I going to try and kill this guy with this guy, or am I going to try to kill this hero with this other hero? And I decided that Lords of Battle would be a good way to kind of blend it all together, since we usually want to have a killing scenario. That way, folks who come with huge hoarding armies can't just pile 30 guys on an objective and win it with against an army that is more elite based, which is actually something we saw. The majority of the armies that played here, actually no, it was a pretty fair 50-50 split between more heavier horde like armies and more elite armies. But that was my reason for going with those three scenarios specifically.
One thing I forgot to mention is instead of playing the traditional 800 point tournament, which has kind of been the meta for many of the tournaments being held, we actually upped the point value to 850. What was your logic on doing that one, Jason?
So I had actually originally done 835 because for those who attended the Past the Dead event, it was 735. And I know we kind of get stuck in this, to say it, meta of like nice even round numbers: 700, 750, 800, 850, 600. I wanted to originally go with something that's kind of out there. So 735 was what we did for Past of the Dead. And I figured just for this one, let's bump it to 835. It's a small local event, like Dan said. Uh, Make it so that you can get extra 100 points worth of guys. We haven't played for a while, so a nice big game. And then eventually, I was just like, you know what? Let's just go 850. 850 is a nice even number. And at some point, there was supposed to be an event in Nashville that unfortunately got canceled that Dan, Joe, and I were all planning for, and that was going to be an 895 point event. What was the reason for that? I think that was the combination of the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers total number of pages in the book. And we had been actually been practicing for that event. And then when it got canceled, I was like, well, we're already practicing at 895. 850 just seems like a natural thing to bump from 835 up to. So I asked just did a poll of the local players, and everybody liked the idea. So we went to 850.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that the 850 points was just a really fun point value. Yeah, I remember reading somewhere when the new rule book came out that the game really now was designed for upper points game. Like you're supposed to be able to take your big heroes and stuff. And I think that it just adds a different quality, I guess, to the game. Where now you
Yeah,
actually each opponent, each player, not opponent, each player has a certain set of tools they can take to an army now, and there's like you can take more than one big caster, or you can take more than one big martial hero, or you can take a martial hero and a caster, and so I think that that adds just some nice dynamics and matchups that you wouldn't have in a like a 800 point game. Because 50 points, you could get a lot of stuff in for
yeah.
50 points.
I think Joe definitely saw that with his army. He definitely had two large heroes, and then one of them was, I guess you call him a medium tier hero, but he was definitely a good piece. I mean, he had the Iron Hills Ballista because Joe played Iron Hills and Thranduil Halls. So, I
Yeah.
mean, Joe, you can tell us more about that because
Y-
you played it. You tell us
Yeah.
how old.
Yeah. So this list that I took, I was actually going to take to Nashville. And the only reason why I committed it to this tournament is because that's what I've been practicing with. So just for the record, I don't normally take kind of powerhouse hitting armies for smaller tournaments, but um, I decided to for this event. So what I did was I took my list. Basically, I just minus about 40 points. So it was Thranduil, Halls, and Iron Hills combined. It's the same list I took to Historicon. Um, so I took Thranduil fully kitted. I didn't give him an elf bow. But other than that, I gave him everything: the elk, the Circlet of Kings, heavy armor. I took Legolas on a horse, and then Dane, of course, on his warboar. And then I took a combination of elves with glaive and elves with sword in each of Legolas and Thranduil's warbands. And then I took Dane Ironfoot and 10 Iron Hills dwarves. And then I believe I took the ballista. So basically, it's a really compact, hard hitting army. It's pretty tough to. I'd imagine it's tough to verse, and I know it's fun to play, but it was a fun army to take. I ended up placing first at the event after having 3 really good games. But I'll let Jason and Dan go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, I'll go over what army I took real quick, and then I guess we can talk about the other armies that were present. Um, so the army I took was actually Lake Town. I have my army showcase video um, on the channel, so you guys could take a look and see what I how they're painted, and there's also gonna be some pictures in the this video of them in action. But I took I built the army originally for 800 points, so I had to fill in some points to get to the 850. I'll tell you guys what that element was. So I took Bard the Bowman with a horse, Alfred, Sigrid and Tilda, 6 Lake Town Militia with shield, 2 Lake Town Militia with shield and spear, and then 4 Lake Town Bow. And that's Bard's warband. Then I took Gandalf the Grey with a horse, leading 5 Lake Town Militia with shield, 2 Lake Town Militia with shield and spear, and 4 Lake Town Militia with bow. And then I took Percy, leading 5 Lake Town Militia with shield, 2 Lake Town Militia with shield and spear, and 4 Lake Town Militia with bow. Then I took Bard, Master Burglar, sorry, not Bard, Bilbo, Master Baggins, Burglar Baggins, and he was leading 5 Lake Town Militia with shield, 2 Lake Town Militia with shield and spear, and 3 Lake Town Militia with bow. So that's my 800 point list. And because of the event, I really wanted to play Lake Town at this event, so I went ahead and added in an additional warband, and that is Hilda Bianca leading 1 Lake Town Militia with shield and spear, 1 Lake Town Militia with bow, and then 2 random Lake Town dudes with no equipment at all equipped, so they're just cheap models to put in. In the games leading up to the tournament, I guess everybody does this is at least I know we do a lot. Is we practice a lot with the armies we want to take the tournament. And leading up to the tournament, this list had done phenomenal. You know, I wiped the floor through all the practice games. Um, and after the first round, which we'll go into the rounds later, I was up for a little bit of rude awakening. So, Jason, what other armies were present at the tournament?
We had John Stokes, who brought Dark Powers of Dol Guldur with the Necromancer and a number of, non-dying wraiths, and then a few hunter orcs and some stuff sprinkled in. Matt Scott had his very nice shooting army with three Avenger Bolt throwers, Aragorn, and then a scattering of troops, both mounted on foot. Uh, he took the new models, Ingold and Iloris. Iloris, I think I'm saying that wrong, but I think he liked the way Ingold played, and I didn't get to play against him, but I practiced with Ingold, and I can say having the ability to have a basically 6-inch diameter where you don't have to back away can be really good. We had Chad Dickinson who brought Mordor, and that was a uh, not a scary Mordor list with like race and stuff, but a power Mordor list with Morannon orcs, Gothmog, who else? Yeah, Shagrat, Kardouche. Actually, he did have some magic. I'm sorry, Kardouche throwing some fireballs around, and then just fill in of Warg Riders and some other stuff. Joe and Dan went over theirs already. We had Richie Shiver coming from Fayetteville who brought the Serpent Horde, and he had 57, almost 60 model list, and he definitely was maximizing the army bonus of making poison weapons and using the Betrayer's will point uh, bonus to make failed reroll all wounds. So it was a good showing. We had a lot of different armies. So we had a perfect three good, three evil. So we had Gondor, Survivors of Lake Town, and then Iron Hills and Pauls of Thranduil team up for our good, and then our evil was Mordor, Dark Powers of Dol Guldur, and the Serpent Horde. So actually a nice 50-50 split too of Hobbit armies and armies of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so originally we had like what 8 people signed up, and you included, and then somebody dropped out last minute, so you
Yeah,
also dropped out.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
came it came between like 6 players total. So I think everybody ended up versing each other, except for I
Yeah,
never versed Matt, but
yeah. So you played, like Dan said, we had 8 folks. I think at one point we had 10 or 11, but family stuff came up and we had a few folks drop. And then all the way up till Friday, the day before, we had 8, and then one of our guys had to drop out. And the one good thing about being a small local event is it's cool if the TO slash organizer slash guy hosting plays. And I was actually really looking forward to it. I'd come up with a Iron Hills army myself, and we've been doing a lot of the narrative scenarios, and I bought a couple of Iron Hills chariots to do the Hobbit scenario where the who is it Balin, Dwalin, Keely, and Feely are running down the frozen or driving down the frozen lake being chased by trolls and stuff. So I wanted to play out the chariot, so I actually had my own list with a Dane, an Iron Hills captain, on the chariot, and then like 12 dwarfs and 4 goat riders and the Iron Hills ballista. And that's actually one of the few armies that I think gave you a bit of a run for your money in practice games, Dan. 'Cause-
no, yeah, if we weren't playing domination, I would have lost that one for sure.
yeah, I mean the chariot is deadly. Just I ran over what was it? I think I ran over Bard with those strength 6 impact hits.
Yeah, that game it pretty much becomes who didn't you run over? You ran over pretty much everybody.
And Joe over there in first place, I ran over almost his entire warband of Iron Hills dwarfs in one of our practice games. So he's probably grinning right now to himself that he didn't have to play me and I didn't partake. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll get him next time.
So let's I guess talk about the matchups we had real quick. I think I had three really good games. I versed round one. I versed Chad's Mortal Army, and literally it was neck and neck the whole game. I lost the game in the last turn, pretty much, where I think he won by like 5 wounds. Um, but that was a neck and neck game. It was a really close game, and that was the game where I was like, man, I can't believe I lost with my Lake Town. Um, he took his my list performed well, and he just was able to score more wounds. I guess the Lake Town guys aren't as durable as the Moran Orcs with shields, so it's harder for me to wound his guys, and it was easier for him to wound mine. So, and then that was Lords of Battle, and then round two, I versed John with his filthy necromancer army. I wouldn't call it filthy. That's another. But his the thing that really came into effect that game is the fact that he had the all the terror on his guys, and I was at -1 because of the ancient evil of the necromancer, and so I was trying to charge him with like courage 2 guys, and I actually lost that game in the last round too. He got the last objective. Was it capture and destroy or destroy the prize or whatever it is.
Yeah, destroy the supplies.
Yeah, destroy the supplies. And he destroyed my last supply in the last turn, and I was getting ready to destroy his supply, but he made a clutch play with a necromancer and compelled Percy off the objective. So I wasn't able to get the point for that. And then the last round, I versed Richie in the assassination game, and I picked. He was playing Harad, and I picked my Gandalf to be the assassin. I think he's probably was the easiest guy to at least get a kill with. And I picked his Hasherin, and I deployed round the line. And my logic was okay. It's like I need my entire goal was to kill my target with my assassin. That's 7 VPs right off the bat. So I wasn't gonna sit back and try to shoot him. And he also has a pretty good shooting army. I've versed that particular Herod build 2 times now, and one of them is a Historicon, and I lost in a capture and control game. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna sit back and trade shots with him. I'm gonna deploy in the line and try to Sorcerer's Blast his guy. So I deployed Gandalf right in front of the Hasherin's warband. Was able to hide Gandalf behind a bush and just pop out every turn and shoot a Sorcerer's Blast at him and hit him with Strength 5 hits. So by the end of the first turn, I'd already scored VPs just by Sorcerer's Blasting his Hasherin. And then I did it again and again, and he actually was able to pass the last fate. I'd burned all my will Sorcerer's Blasting him, so I sent Gandalf and his warband, and then half of another warband to go hunt the Hasherin, and eventually got Gandalf in combat with the Hasherin and killed him. So he broke me, and I did not break him. So he scored 3 VPs that way, and I scored 7. And that was a fun game, mostly because I didn't know who he was going for. He killed like one of the daughters with his shooting. So I was like, oh man, he's probably going after one of the daughters, but he didn't get his objective. I got mine, and I was able to secure a 7-3 victory, and that actually boosted me up to 4th place. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a really close game. I kept peeking in, watching it. I was just like, dang. I don't know who Richie is going for, but if I was you, Dan, I would have been sweating bullets. Because, I mean, Lake Town's got so many little heroes, especially with that build, that you really don't know who he could go after. And it could have easily been one of the 2 daughters, like you said. And that could have really hurt you, not only because of the fact that he would have gotten those VPs for killing her, but also because it makes, Bard go crazy, and that can really backfire and hurt your army.
Yeah, thankfully that happened in the I think the second to last turn, so Bard was still usable. He didn't go totally crazy, but one good bit about it was I was like, okay, well, Richie killed her with a normal archer, so he didn't get the kill with an assassin, one of his heroes. So I was like, okay, so I'm still good. I'm still winning, even if he got those points. Because I think you get like what 5 points for killing.
Yeah, if you do, it's a one of those ones where really the victory points really depend on how you get the main objective. You know, you got the secondary objectives of breaking and killing your enemy's leader, but that was one where it was 1, 3, 5, or 7. 1 for wounding your opponent, for wounding your target. 3 for wounding it, and one of the wounds is caused by your assassin. 5 for an outright kill, and 7 for a kill, and the final wound is dealt by your assassin. So it's one where you really got to play some head games.
Yeah, I at first I thought he was going after Hilda because he sent all of his cav on the left flank where she was, and it looked like he was getting ready to dive bomb her. So I literally ran her back, and I ran Alfred back because Alfred's a pretty easy kill. I normally just throw him in the fray. But I was like, Alfred could be a target too, so I threw Alfred and Hilda back in my corner of the board, and he it, so it worked out. But
Yeah, that was fun.
yeah, it was it was fun. I mean,
He
it
was
was
like, "Where are you going? Get him back over here!"
yeah, yeah.
I
I
was
was
like,
like,
"I know what you're doing, man."
yeah. After
I
his
got no.
after his reaction, I was like, oh man, he's definitely target one of those two. But Joe, how'd your games go?
Yeah, so I had round one. I ended up versing John in his Dark Powers of Dogol Army, and so we were playing Lords of Battle, and it's a scenario. So like, let me like put a little caveat in here. I actually have looked at that army, the Dark Powers of Dogol Dur before, and I've kind of dismissed it. Like I'm like, well, I don't see how like because I look at armies in two different ways. I look at armies how they play in narrative play and how they play in match play, like competitive kind of tournaments and stuff. That's kind of how I kind of judge armies. And I kind of thought that army was like I was like, well, Magic's been nerfed. I don't know how the Necromancer can pull his weight, kind of thing. So we deployed. I kind of put my army in a corner because, like I said, like I understand like this is a smaller event. In the previous two events we've had, I've taken pure test armies just for fun. This army, I was really trying to test this army out to make sure it's one I can keep in my kind of arsenal for future bigger events. So I deployed in the corner, and my goal was to try and shoot and kill his keeper of the dungeon and try and take out the spiders and stuff because he had a few of the Mirkwood spiders. So my goal was to try and take some key targets out and try and get the Necromancer down to about 15 will before I had to like really worry about my heroes. So the first shot I did at the ballista, I didn't take any archers other than the ballista, and I had Legolas in my army with his 3 shots. First shot at the ballista, I ended up killing like 4 or 5 guys. It was ridiculous. Now his hunter orcs are only defense 4, so I was wounding him on 4s, and the guy that I hit originally needed 3, so it was low numbers. I was actually really surprised. I killed like 4 or 5 guys, shot Legolas 3 shots into another, kill like another one. So about 2 or 3 turns of shooting went by. I ended up being like 12 points ahead or something. 12 tallies. And then we got into combats. He was able to wrap around. There's a big room. We ended up playing in the corner of the board out of the entire 4-foot board. We played on the small little one foot section. He was able to wrap around this big like tower, this ruined tower. Is our Fornos board we have, and he killed my crew for my ballista. I sent a few elves and stuff over there to help try and tie up as many guys, shoot it for as long as I could, because I was trying to peg his necromancer. So fighting, we basically got in the fight. So he basically nullified my thing, and he had a big comment. He went from 0 to 12 to 18 and like 28. I didn't kill any of his ring wraiths, even with elven made weapons and all that. I did kill the keeper of the dungeons. I did kill the spiders, and those those 2 kills right there, if you think about it wound wise, those 2 kills so if I didn't kill those 2 pieces with Thranduil, because he's the one who did it, then it would have been much less of a margin. So I think kind of the difference in wounds done is you might look at it beginning of the game, oh well, he did 12 wounds, but in combat he actually did a good job. It was just, I think the end like thing there was his heroes kept coming back because those are basically free wounds for my heroes. Um, but he did a really good job. I mean, I can't take anything away from him. There was a point in time where he almost killed Dane. Now I'm gonna admit to my own ignorance. For some reason I thought I forgot you can use your fate for chill soul. I know it's a magic power and I know it's an instant wound, but for some reason I was like, okay. So I still had all 3 of my fate and I had 1 wound left of Dane because I wasn't rolling for my fate. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can use my fate for this. So luckily the last turn he chill souled Dane and I was able to fade out of it. So, but he didn't kill my leader. But I ended up winning. I broke him. I think he broke me, and I had more tallies. So it was like a 6-2 or something like that.
Yeah, that was a really close game.
Yeah,
It was
I
6-1.
Yeah, considering
Because he wounded your leader. I think that was his BP.
Okay, that's right. So, but like in terms of like winning, it wasn't like a burnout. I think the difference is I had the fight 6 heroes, and they were just able to beat the ring race every turn and wound him. If I wasn't able to do that, then I think he would have won.
You guys had a pretty close army, model count wise, because I kept coming in, and you're right. I mean, I came in at the one point, and you were up like 12, 13 to nothing. And he just had like a large handful of models dead on the side, and I'm like, dang, what the heck? And then I came back, 45 to an hour later to recheck on you guys, and your wound count was almost even, and I'm just like, okay, someone had a big comeback.
Yeah, and like I said, I dismiss that army as like being quote unquote competitive. But I could honestly see, especially after John Stokes' last round against Matt Scout, which I guess I'll let Jason explain that one because he was able to watch it. But after that game, I could definitely see where that army with a certain build would actually be really effective for certain scenarios. I mean, it would depend pretty much solely on what scenarios you played and all that. But I think it was some nice little tricks behind it. I think the Necromancer still is a solid piece.
John Stokes had a very good build. I won't lie. He had because we've looked at that army, the 3 of us have together. Because I've thought about taking it before, and I might still in the future. But it was really cool to be able to watch it and see him play 3 games and see how it worked out. And he had a very optimized build. Of course, you've got the points to do it 850, which is another cool thing when you're playing that high.
That's one thing I know, like you guys were able to talk about earlier, and that's one thing I kind of wanted to chime in on, but my mic was muted, and I decided to let you guys talk for a second. But upper points values, I can actually see now where 1,000-point games could be the next 800. Like so, last edition 800 points was seemed like the max. But honestly, in this edition, I would feel kind of comfortable at 1,000 points, knowing how like armies kind of work now. Like for instance, taking Iron Hills Ballista, taking the Chariot. I mean, you could add like all kinds of crazy models into an army, and like you could still be at a lower model count. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I could definitely see where 1,000 points would be viable for this edition for most armies.
So on a side note, we're gonna go off topic with this. I mean, that was one of the things that I heard as feedback from everybody was like, I'd really like to see 1,000-point event. So I'm honestly thinking when I do this next one in February, March, I'm thinking of making it a 1,000-point event. My question though to that is, how do you keep it 1,000 points? Not you have to balance out time, which I think I have a way to do. But not only that, you have to balance out fairness to both players. Because think about 1,000-point Goblin Town. How many models is a guy going to drop on the board at 1,000 points? 150? 175?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I think like I think where that would come in, it would kind of be like, so it's like the player's choice, whatever they take in the list, and like most people, like in my mind, when I think of when I'm building a list for an event, I'm like, okay, well, I need to have a tool in here to deal with this threat. I need a tool in here to deal with this threat. If I was versing Goblin Towns with my Iron Hills army, I would if I was able to throw in like a chariot or something, I'd actually feel confident. But I understand what you're saying in terms of balancing out the time. That would probably
Yeah,
be like that probably would be a thing where you have to put in like 100 models or 110 or something model
yeah.
restriction.
Because for Lords of Battle, 1,000 points, you're like, whatever. I can just shoot the Iron Hills Ballista 3 times, and boom, I'm already gonna win. But for something like a destroy the supply scenario, if you've got a more elite based 1,000 point list, and you've got 40 models, which is, pretty much going from 850 to 1,000, you would just be buffing your troop numbers a bit and maybe taking a third big hero, or buffing up, a medium tier to a large hero.
Yeah,
But you still are probably not going to have that many models. And if someone walks in, like I said, that's something I'd be interested. I'm curious. I'm curious what I'm going to do about that because I really would like to do 1,000 points for everybody in this event. I'm just
yeah.
trying to figure out the best way to make it fair.
It's like it seems like 1,000 points is a good points value for this edition, but it's something that needs to be balanced out by TOs. I think.
Yeah,
So, but off that side topic, I'll talk about my next round, which was against Matt Scott. Now, me and Matt Scott have had a couple of games in previous tournaments. He normally takes Minas Tirith with Elisar, as I think he should. And then he takes 3 Avenger Bolt Throwers, 2 or 3 or whatever. He normally takes multiple Avenger Bolt Throwers. So versus me, we played each other in Destroy the Supplies, and we positioned not a lot, like a lot happened in terms of setup. Like I was able to move Thranduil over and dismount all of his Knights of Minas Tirith with the Nature's Wrath. I was able to kill a few guys with the Iron Hills Ballista. I killed a few crewmen. His Avenger Bolt Thrower was able to shoot and kill a handful of guys. But when we got into combat, so there's 2 factors of this game. So I ended up losing, by the way. He got a major win. So the 2 factors of the game was so he had a banner, but I put my ballista in the corner. And this is to anyone out there who takes Iron Hills ballistas. And this is the second time I've made this mistake. I put it in the corner to protect it from whatever. But it ended up being where he can position his banner in the opposite corner, and that way, like the diagonal corner away from me, and I couldn't shoot at him. I didn't have the range, so he was able to park his banner and his hornblower up there the entire game without any threat of me getting to him or anything because I couldn't shoot at him. I didn't want to move my ballista, and then worry about not being able to shoot for a turn. So that ended up costing me some VPs later on. But so if you played the Iron Hills Ballista, you should probably put it at the center of the table, 6 inches away instead of the corner. That's the second time I made that mistake, by the way. So,
yeah.
so Matt Scott, so we, like I said, we positioned our pieces, killed a few guys in shooting, killed a few guys in magic. Then we ended up getting into combat. So Gondor War was interesting for me in terms of like the models that came out because I remember I looked at Elfhelm and I was like, well, Elfhelm is pretty bad, and then I playtested Elfhelm and now I love him. Iroarless is another one of those pieces where I looked at him, I'm like, hey, you could take better, but him and Ingold cracked. So it was my Elven shield wall versus Minas Tirith shield wall. I had Thranduil with my guys. He had nothing big. He just had Iroarless and Ingold. And Madril. He had Madril as well. Now, granted, he had 9 might to my 3, but he didn't need to burn it because his Minas Tirith warriors weren't backing up. And when Iroarless and Ingold were winning fights, they were dropping my elves pretty fast. Along with there was a point in time where I lost like 4 or 5 consecutive fights, and I lost 4 or 5 consecutive models. So he ended up beating back my advance towards his supplies. I had Dane sneak around, destroy supply, and then he was on the other supply, but then he was able to just send a ranger or a warrior back for a quick turn so I couldn't destroy his other supplies. So he ended up it's the story of this list I've taken now where just a handful of models being able to pin you down in a fight makes all the difference. And I think that's what Jason was talking about earlier. I had a pretty elite army for 850.
Yeah, that was one where I walked past, and I think I focused on that game a lot because it was after lunch, so I was kind of fat and full. Um, but at one point, you were doing really good, and you were pinging his bolt thrower and stopping, killing a guy or two here or there with him. And unfortunately, when you did get into combat, it just all fell apart for you because your guys just didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think this edition it really stands out in terms of what heroes you take, because I took just 3 big heroes, big powerhouses. Yes, Thranduil buffs my troops. Yes, Dane buffs my troops. But his Gondor shield wall that didn't back up and that was shield walled because he had a pure ministerial, warriors, and then he had Aurorus in there to add some fight and some might. It was I couldn't move him back, and when I lost the fight, I'd lose the model. So honestly, minister players out there, I would heavily
In,
consider.
Ingold
Yeah,
is no joke.
yeah, Ingold, and Aurorus. Having a fight 5 guy in there, like you could have him next to Ingold in the game in the shield wall kind of thing. His fight 5 can help you out against a lot of stuff. So, or you can have him a few pieces down. But I think in terms of shield wall, that's a pretty good combo. If you're really looking to buff up regular warriors in the Steerth, plus he had a horn, plus he had his +1 to his courage because of the army bonus. So my Artis May bubble of Thranduil did not matter to him because he was courage 5. So
Yeah, that was a really good build by him.
yeah,
A really good
so
combination of
he,
army bonuses and board gear.
so anyone who plays Ministers, I highly recommend looking into playtesting stuff because that build was good. He ended up beating me, and this is a list. This is a list that I consider to be a very powerful list. So, so we're going into round 3. I lost that game. I versed Chad Dickinson, who Dan lost to round 1. He had a horde of orcs with Goroth, Gothmog, Kardash, and he had Shagrat. So I'm like, okay, so assassination. I made my leader Dane because he's a little bit higher defense than Thranduil. I was like, okay, so I can make Thranduil my assassin. I looked at his heroes. I was like, okay, who do I want to pick? Shagrat. Shagrat's kind of hard to kill. Kardash, he can keep parked behind. I was like, you know what? I'll make Goroth the guy I want to kill because Goroth thrives in combat. He can't do anything outside of combat, and I can win fights with Thranduil against him. So similar to Lords of Battle, I kind of deployed back. This is normally how I play with the siege engines. Deployed back a little bit so I could shoot at him. I was able to kill a handful of guys in shooting. Honestly, the ballista didn't do too much that game. Legolas was able to shoot Gothmog off his ward, but we got into combat. So turn 1, he wraps Shagrat and like 4 or 5 guys in around Dane. We each rolled for strike. I got the higher fight. He got the lower fight, but I ended up rolling like a 3 highest with 2 might. He won the fight. He did a lot of wounds to Dane. I passed all 3 of my fate. If I did not, then Dane would have died. But he did a lot of wounds. And to his admission, he ended up kind of fast rolling his dice. So he threw in Shagrat's dice and orcs, and he just rolled them. He's like, oh yeah, I should have saved Shagrat's out for might and stuff. And yeah, he could have easily. I forgot he gets to reroll ones because of his army bonus. So he actually, thinking about it now, he probably could have actually killed Dane if he had slowed down his dice rolling a little bit. So that's something I recommend if you're trying to kill a key target and you got some with might, you just kind of slow it down. So he almost killed Dane. Thranduil, he was able to charge me first, I think, so I didn't kill too much. I don't even think I used my Nature's Wrath once. I didn't use my Nature's Wrath that game. But so we're fighting. Not a lot's happening. And then reversal from last game, my troops start doing a lot. My elves and the dwarves, and I had them all within 3 inches of Thranduil, and then the dwarves with their strength 4. I was killing. My troops were killing his troops fast, really fast. My heroes weren't performing. My troops were overperforming. So I ended up breaking him. Kardish fled. Not a lot happened after that. So he was broken. If we had rolled for the first turn of him being broken, I think he actually would have won. No,
Yeah, he
sorry.
would have.
Yeah, he had the leader wound, but okay. So actually, I was unbroken. He was broken, so I would have won by 2 points. Which would have been a minor win, so it would have been a lot better for him. And honestly, there was a point in time where I thought he could have won. I'm assuming I always assumed the guy he was trying to kill would be Legolas, because why would he want to go after Thranduil? And Dane was my leader, so he was able to get Goroth in against Legolas and do 2 wounds to him. And I passed one of my fate out of the 3, so Legolas didn't die. So I saw a chance, so I pulled Legolas back 10 inches, put Thranduil in against Goroth, because Thranduil was my assassin. I was trying to kill Goroth. I ended up killing Goroth, and basically, this is the first time in the tournament I actually tabled him. To his credit, there was a point. Honestly, he could have won. He had to do 1 more wound to Legolas, and he could have killed Dane. And it could have been, he could have tied it. So, but yeah, that was a good game. I felt kind of. Oh yeah, and this is the first time ever too. I rolled 5 I rolled 5 dice. I picked up 3 dice of Thranduil. I picked up 2 dice. I picked up 2 dice for the elves that were in the fight with him. Rolled them together, rolled them in the tray, and I rolled 5 ones. That's the first time I've ever rolled 5
we
ones like that.
we have that on photo evidence, guys. It is
Yep.
definitely going to be in this video, hopefully.
So,
Yes,
but
it
yeah,
definitely
no.
is going to be.
So I ended up winning. I think kind of like the factor in that game, and I think it's like I think a lot of people talk about how Hobbit armies tend to be more of a power creep than the Lord of the Rings armies, and I think that's the sole reason is he had to strike just to match my fight value. Dane had the Master Battle that saved Dane from dying. I think probably the fact that he had Master Battle, because I was able to tie his fight value or get higher when he had enough troops to trap me. But yeah, I ended up winning. It was a 12-2, I think.
Hold on, I can tell you. 12-0.
Okay. So I ended up winning that game and getting first place at the event. I think like the thing for me was I was really just trying to see the list, because I know the last time I took Dino's Ballista, it was still, it's before they eroded it, so it was still 35 points cheaper. And I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure it's still valid. I want to make sure that these pieces still work together in case everyone takes this to a future event, and it did. So now I got the information I wanted, so now the next event I could bring ruffians or something. But yeah, it was a fun event, Jason. Thanks for hosting it. Chad, Matt, and John, you guys were great. Thanks for the great games. So that's really it for me.
Yeah, I would like to also thank all my opponents, Chad, John, and Richie. You guys were really good opponents and really fun to verse. So, Jason, do you have any final thoughts on the tournament?
No, just a last shout out. Thanks to everybody who was able to show up, and for those who couldn't make it because of family reasons or work or whatever, I hope to see you guys next time. Start planning your 1,000 point list. I think I'm going to go with it. Um, I got no date set, obviously, yet because it's way too early, but I'll figure out something. And like I said, we'll do February or March. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to that again. Maybe, hopefully, I'll get to join in this time. If not, I do enjoy watching because everyone who comes is. I mean, we got a great group of guys here in Carolinas, and everyone's polite. Everyone's fun to hang out with. Everyone's just, there's a group of big nerds, to put it simply, and we enjoy having fun. So, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. If you guys are interested in coming to some of our events, just give us a shout out. Of course, we have the big Ringo South every year, so that's kind of everybody's welcome to that. We do have smaller events, but if you guys want to hook up, we can see what we can do. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment below, and of course enjoy your Middle Earth adventures.